Good evening, everyone. So before we start, as usual, I would like to give a shout out to our partner. So our partner this time is UCL once again. They've been very kind to partner with us, so don't fall for it. And there is a small announcement from them that I will just quickly go through. Right. So UCL actually has a globally recognized cybersecurity expert program. So from protecting sensitive data to empowering the world's most vulnerable, you can go further than you ever thought possible with an IT degree from Monash. So Monash is actually ranking in the top 100 in the world for computer science and information systems. So UCL is a pathway to study IT at Monash University from Sri Lanka. So you actually have the opportunity to further study computer networks and security or cyber security. And there's an invitation to join the October intake for any of our audience who are interested. So you can join UCL and progress to year 2 of your degree in Australia or Malaysia in July 2020. So there are scholarships available, and interested students can call UCL on a number which I will put on the chat. It's not 774 777 000, but I will put it on the chat anyway. Or they can just DM the Instagram or Facebook pages, Monash at UCL, just if they want any more information. So they also have another software engineering degree, which I will just show on the screen for a moment. Yeah, so this is the software engineering degree and the other programs mentioned as well. So big shout out once again to UCL who have kindly partnered with us for this webinar. And without further ado, let's move on to the proceedings of this evening. So, thank you again, everyone, for taking the time off your Saturday evenings to come sit with us and talk about getting scammed. Always a fun topic. So to start off,
fun to experience.
That's true. So to start off, I have a general question which I would like responses from all of you for. So the question is, how would you define a scam? Because I know there's a lot of different types of scams and everyone has been through many different scams. So Shanuki, if we could start with you, how would you define a scam?
Yeah, so a scam, whether it's online or offline, I would define it as this dishonesty, this act of fraud or dishonesty where you're tricking somebody into believing something that's not true. And there are many forms of scams out there, I think, in various forms, big or small. But essentially, it's being dishonest and it's leading people up a garden path.
Right. Harithriya, I'm just going according to the order I see you on my screen.
Okay, so I agree with Shanuki on this. So basically, I would say that it is a fraudulent act. And if I put a bit of a legal spin to it, so it would be something where you would deprive your victim of something that is legally right by theirs. So ideally, a scam would be a little difficult to define because it is a very, I think it has a very wide interpretation, especially with this, with the fourth industrial revolution upon us and the technological boom happening all around us. We are more entangled and embedded with technology. So physically, the scammer wouldn't have to go to a physical geographical location to ideally scam you. So the scope of scamming will continuously be enlarging. So in terms of, if I look at it from a legal perspective, of course, you would ideally have a mental element where you would intentionally or with knowledge scam somebody, and then we will have the physical activity of actually scamming somebody. So I think that would be my interpretation to what a scam is.
Right. Okay. Devaka, I think you have the perfect opportunity to follow up on what Harithriya just mentioned. So if I could have your thoughts.
Well, I could give you that the definition that is more geared towards online scamming, which is basically deceitful or deceptive behavior in the hopes of obtaining resources. It could be contacts, it could be financial, it could be even your identity.
Mm-hmm.
So that is more or less the
right. Okay. Finally, Mr. Ginige, if you have any additional thoughts.
Well, I would agree with all three presenters. Like they have explained the definition. Even I would say scam is a illegal trick, usually with the purpose of getting money from people. Some scammers attempt to use more private methods to communicate, such as email, phone numbers, to build trust with the victims and target on the victims' false sense of relationship to tempt them into sending money. And so I would say it's more towards getting in part of with your money or information through deception. Probably will be target of scams at some point of regardless of who you are or where you live as well. And I think in this forum we are mainly focusing on, I think, the technological scamming, but apart from that there are social scamming as well. One good example would be sympathy scam, or else the beggar scam, which happen most of countries like Sri Lanka, India. As an example, today I received a WhatsApp message. It's from a local paper, a news article, and it says a beggar having something like 140 million rupees in his account. So literally they are stealing money. So that would be my definition.
Oh, okay. That was certainly unexpected. I didn't know about that. So actually following up to that, we have the perfect question that again I would like everyone's responses on. So what are the most inventive scams that you have heard of or personally experienced? Would anyone like to just start on this, or should I go in order again? Okay, I'll just go in order. Devaka, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So I've seen a lot online, but I think one of the most creative scams I've seen that happened recently was during the lockdown. There's an organization called Kindness Collective, headed by Jessica Fernando. They were trying to collect dry rations and give it out to the daily wage earners. They were the people who needed the most help during the lockdown. So without mentioning any names, there was this one individual who kept on messaging all the charitable organizations like Kindness Collective. So there are a few others that he contacted saying that he was that he had met with an accident and he is still in the ICU and he is unable to work, and because of the pandemic, like, he can't do anything else. And he had sent photographs of him, in bed, and there were a couple of other photographs showing off donations that he had got from people who are willing to help. So I don't know what set people off, but certain people kind of thought that something was fishy about this person, so they did some digging around, and they found out that he had been messaging all the charitable organizations and saying that he was in the ICU. But when we checked with the hospital and we checked with the room number. There's no such patient there. So what he was basically doing was pretending that he was disabled and in trouble. And he even got some lady to message the pages saying, we know this guy, he's like a neighbor of ours. Can you please help this person? So he obviously had a accomplice as well. Could be a fake Facebook profile. But I have to say, very well planned. And anybody who felt any sympathy for the daily wage earner or people who couldn't do much during the lockdown, I have to admit, I was all ready to like maybe take up a collection and maybe go and see this guy. But yeah, I would have looked forward going to a hospital where he was actually, when he was actually not there. And apparently his injuries happened a year and a half ago or a year ago. He had met with an accident, but he wasn't exactly helpless. So yeah, that I thought that was very creative and very well planned, especially if you can get somebody else to support you and say, you know, we've given him stuff and he's a good person, he works very hard and this family is in trouble. Very well organized, I have to say. But I suppose that's to be expected as people get smarter. It's only natural that the scammers get smarter too, and they come up with new tactics, you know, to appeal to your sense of sympathy and gullibility, maybe. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Harithriya?
So most of the scams that I've heard of are mostly geared where there are underage children involved, because that is mostly where my research is centered around. So this particular scam that I'm going to talk about is not nearly as related to monetary as much. So it was where this victim had actually contacted a certain fashion designer online through social media, and she was having a certain level of correspondence with this fashion designer. And the fashion designer has responded, and they've been building a rapport between them, and gradually sharing details initially about fashion and designs and trends and things like that, which sort of graduated to, more intimate details about family and social background and things like that. And it had gotten to a point where the victim had actually sent pictures of herself to this designer, because at the end of the day she's a designer and she designs clothes. So in the sense of the victim, from the victim's perspective, she probably thought it was a fair request to see that it was actually somebody else posing as the fashion designer. And it got to a point where this perpetrator tried to extort money from the victim and things like that. So the victim was able to take action against the perpetrator. But this is actually something that we need to be very careful of, because scams are not just money oriented. We also have things that are non-monetized, where people look into, like I think Devaka said, to steal your identity, to extort you, to expose a lot of vulnerabilities within you, especially underage children, I think.
Right. Mr. Ginige?
Yeah. So going with Devaka and Harithriya, those examples are very correct. And I would say when it comes to scams, there are different type of scams. In fact, there are a variety of scams. One, I would just explain about maybe two types of them. One is normally scams that we see day to day. If it is in electronic manner, the day-to-day life scam. Especially they are focusing on money. And there are some other scams online, they are into more towards a criminal activity. For an example, I can give you a list of day-to-day life scams now. One popular scam is work at home scam. Then tempting you for certain things. For an example, let's say you are a fat person, you want to lose weight. You are a thin person, you want to gain weight. So there can be scams, overweight. Have I got a deal? We have a deal for you, something like that. And there are so many email scams. And one popular scam is the Nigerian scam, where a person from Nigeria is claiming a government official, or as a rich person who has having a lot of money and wanted to give it to someone else as well. And also there's another popular one, day-to-day life, that we get 90 phone calls scam, especially focusing on that you have won a lottery. Then to claim it, give a call to a kind of premium number, and hanging on the call, they get money from you. So those are some sort of examples that we get with day-to-day life as well. And there are some examples as well, credit card frauds as well, that companies have done. One good example was, I think it was something around 2010. The owner of, I think, one of the beauty salons in US, Beverly Hills Beauty Salon, was arrested by the federal authorities because of stealing credit card information from the customers. If you check the customer base, all the super customers were there, like high class, the actors, all of them were there in that particular thing. And she has stole a lot of money from them as well. Going with Devaka about the COVID situation, in fact, we have COVID-19 scams as well. A lot of COVID-19 scams have they have come up with a lot of scams as well. Scam Watch, one of the authorities running at Australia, they have received something like 4,000 scam reports mentioning the coronavirus, and around $2 million money has been taken from people with various reasons. Like common scams include like phishing for personal information, online shopping, maybe medical covers, delivery something, maybe retirement plans, health related things. So they tend to trick people for day-to-day problems that we have. Apart from that, there are certain criminal related scams as well. Even the phishing email scams, then greeting card scams, bank loan, credit card scams, lottery scam, hitman scam, you can name it. There are a lot of scams available as well. Then again, they are trying to trick us into get information, maybe to click on something, to claim something, get away information. So I have seen such scams in my life, and I've studied on that particular area as well. I have a good example which has happened to a friend of mine. In fact, he's a faculty member of University of Colombo who worked with me, a senior faculty member. He's a lawyer in profession. Currently, he's not living in Sri Lanka. And I got a mail from his email account saying, currently I'm in this particular country and I have lost everything and I need money. Would it be possible for you to send some money for him to settle his hotel bill or something? I knew that it was not from him. So I had different ways of contacting that senior academic faculty member. So I spoke to him, I wrote to him in different ways and got it confirmed that it is not for him. I think his account has been hacked and his information person have collected the information. So ultimately what I did was like I tricked that particular person to get his information as well. I pretended like I'm sending the money, I collected his information, I got his name, I got his even national identity card number as well, and I had handed it to the right relevant authority to take action as well. So there are a lot of scams running, especially focusing on money and focusing on different other criminal activities as well. That would be my answer.
Right. Thank you so much. So, Shanuki?
Yeah, I think I might just have the professional qualifications of a scammie, of a victim of scams, because the number of scams that I have personally had to go through. And some of them have been super innovative. I pride myself sometimes on having trust issues and being able to see through people, right? But I've gotten caught to so many cyber scams, it's not funny. There is a massive scam that still goes on that everybody knows about, but it happens so out there in the open, where at these trade fairs and these PMICH and, you know,
Mm-hmm.
those kind of sales. At the entrance, you have these raffle tickets that are filled in by people who come, and they say, you know, you can win something from this such and such a place. And I actually used to fill those in and put it into the box. And one day I got a call saying, we are from, I can't name names, but we're from this organization. You filled in this form. You have won this holiday in India. Can you come please to this address in Colombo so that we can interview you? And, you know, so I was very excited that I had won this. And then when I went there, it was this massive, it was like a fancy setup. It was an operation. It almost looked like a working office where they had so many people, and they took me from room to room. And there were a lot of people who had come there who they had called saying, you have won this. And they wanted us to sit through presentations, and there were different like customer service representatives who spoke to us about this wonderful travel opportunities in India, and how there's this membership that we'd have to buy into to be able to travel and get, you know, these experiences. And we have one element of the experience, like they'll give us a room at this one hotel in one place, but you know, in order to get that, you have to sign up for this membership. And it was like they took us through about 2 hours of different people talking to us, and it was like this VIP treatment. And then it turned out the membership I had to pay was 1.2 million rupees in order to be able to travel to this place. And that was what I had apparently won. And this has been going on for years, actually. It's actually been going on for years, and many friends of mine have fallen for the same thing. And you've had very gullible people coming there, and they sell it, they pitch it to you like, if you get this membership, you're able to enjoy like a lifetime of discounted stays in hotels all across India. And then the first holiday is free on them, but you have to buy into this membership to do it. So it is a scam. It is very much a scam. And I walked out of there saying, thank you, goodbye. But I saw lots of couples there who seemed very happy that they had won something, and they were there willing to sign up, right? So that was one. Of course, there are like dating scams. My God, catfishing. I don't think we have enough time to tell you how many people have like, they pose as younger people and they turn out to be like 70-year-old men or something like that. You know, and there have been financial scams. Definitely, you have people calling saying you want something, you know. And the most recent one was actually, there was a scam with the Chokolaate magazine, where I think we had done a webinar with the magazine. I was part of that webinar. I think it was a webinar on mental health or domestic violence. I can't remember what we talked about, but I think the magazine had got a call from a man who was claiming to be a very famous film director in Sri Lanka. And he had spoken to somebody at the magazine saying he was looking for my number because he wanted to contact me. So the magazine actually called me and said, okay, such and such a person, this director called us and wanted your number. Is it all right that we give it? So the magazine asked me whether it's okay. Now, when a magazine asks me whether they can give a number, I would obviously take for granted that they know who they're giving it to. So on that trust, I said I consented to my number being passed on. So then this guy called me, and I had never met this director before, but he's so famous. I had heard of him, obviously. So I was also quite excited, and I have a background in theater, so it was a big deal. And he called me, this happened like about a month back, and he called me and he talked to me, and he said, you know, that he's the current chairman of the Sri Lanka Film Corporation, and they're going into this thing where they're trying to select 3 people from the country to be the next generation of stars in Sri Lanka. And would I be interested, because they would invest in me and give me lead roles in 10 movies going forward. So my thing was, I didn't want a career in film. So I told him I'm very honored, but you know, this is not my career choice. And he got very upset with me, and he was just pushing me, don't you want to be a star, don't you want to be this, you know, we are going to, you're going to win, you're going to be making this X amount of money, like they said, like per film, it was 4 million per film that they were going to pay me, and they had 10 films lined up and all of that. And then it just started smelling so fishy. So but I took it for granted that this was who he said he was, because this was introduced to me by the magazine and all of that. But then I said, I'm just not interested. But then he said, no, come for an audition. He wanted me to come for an audition, and he actually gave me a place to come to. And he said, at this time you come for a casting call and all that. And I just asked him, okay, which performance of mine did you see to decide that I was the person you wanted? Because if you're the film corporation and you're going to like invest in $40 million in someone, then obviously what is it about me that you want? And then he was like, oh, you do theater. Like, he hasn't seen me act, and suddenly he's like offering me this deal, and he wants me to come for like a casting call, So that kind of like raised a red flag, and I said, okay, I'm not really interested, but why don't you ask this person to come? And I gave the name of an actress who is quite famous. He didn't know who it was. He was like, who's that? So I'm like, okay, then the chairman of the film corporation doesn't know this person, since like, she has won these awards and all that. Why don't you ask her? And he's like, okay, ask her to call me. So then I called Chokolaate. I called the magazine back, and I said, do you know who this guy is? And what the magazine said is, yeah, he sent us these messages and he sent us these film posters of his. And of course, the magazine also took for granted that it was who he said it was. And then I downloaded an app called Truecaller, where I ran his number, the number he called me from. When I put it, that guy, he's fake. He had some different name, and he had 15 other numbers registered under that name. Yeah. And so I immediately, actually, I called around, got some contacts, and found the actual director. And I called him and I said, sir, this is happening. I've got a call from somebody who has stolen your identity. And he said he knows. And this guy has been calling like so many people in the industry, and there is a current ongoing case against him. So yeah, so that happened to me as well. So I called the magazine and said, can you please be careful, like verify your contacts? Because I mean, the magazine wasn't at fault, and we both trusted, I guess. So yeah, so there are scams like that going around as well. That's one of the more innovative ones that I've heard. And he's been contacting a lot of people, and invariably he had sent messages to other people on WhatsApp pretending to be me after that, and asking for money for various charities, because I do raise funds for charity work. And he had created a WhatsApp profile with my picture and everything, and sent it out to people asking for money. So yeah.
Right. Wow. Okay. So following up to that question, since everyone has been through a lot of different types of scams, I think you'll all like this question. So what are the telltale signs of a scam, and how would you recognize a scammer? Mr. Ginige, if we could start with you.
Yeah, now when it comes to identifying the signs and recognizing scams, we have to be very careful. Before you answer or respond to an email, or to answer a call, maybe to reply to a letter, you have to check for these signs as well. So we have to be very careful to check what sort of offer that they are giving, what sort of an invitation that they are given. Scammers will usually offer you something for nothing, where you have not previously heard about them. There's no correspondence and there's no involvement with them, and you get an opportunity to earn easy money from that particular offer that they are giving. And in order to get that, we need to exchange maybe upfront cash fee, or else to perhaps some information, to share our information, personal information, account related information. And sometimes they want us to call to a particular number, as an example, a premium rate phone number, to collect a certain price as well. And when you call them, your call will hang for a long time, and they'll be taking money from your account as well. And if you check your emails that you get, sometimes you may notice certain spelling mistake. Sometimes you may you may see some grammar mistake. Sometimes you might see some addresses having PO box numbers as well. And sometimes when you pay money, they wanted to pay them through unconnected third party, maybe through a different country as well. So we have to remember that scammers gain trust by claiming from a well-known company, well-known organization, known person, and they follow their own way of verification procedure to verify them, to claim they are those people, and they know how to appeal to our emotions as well. So we have to be very careful on that as well. And also they create sense of urgency as well. They create sense of urgency for us to make that particular decision as well. Let me explain with a very simple example rather than taking a lot of example. For an example, let's say a phishing email or a phishing SMS that you get. For an example, let's say a bank SMS claiming some offer, maybe a loan that they have granted, or else some financial benefits. Sometimes scammers can make these messages look like very real, that we will feel like it's from that legitimate organization, legitimate unit. However, they can spoof the identity. They can spoof the caller identity, the email identity. They can pretend themselves by someone else as well. And also, you may see some differences in their styles as well. Now, with respect to this differentiation of signs, for an example, if you get two mails, two messages, sometimes you will see like there are certain differences of what was there in the previous messages. And another thing that you can get as a sign would be, it might have some malicious links. The SMS or your email might want you to click on a certain link URL and to go ahead with some providing certain information. Sometimes you would see like these connections are not secure. If it is a legitimate site or else who are dealing with sensitive financial information sort of thing, always they use secure way of connection, that is HTTPS, Hypertext Transfer Protocol, the secure layer. Not the normal Hypertext Transfer Protocol, HTTP. But then again, don't rely only alone with this HTTPS. Sometimes scam sites use HTTPS as well. And also, as the previous example, also even that film director's example, even I got the call for that travel lottery thing for India. Once I get the call, I said, yeah, thank you, I'm not interested, because I know that it's a different thing. They show sense of urgency as well. They show sense of urgency, so you have to be very careful. So we have to know what to look for. To easy to spot a scam. Remember to be very careful if someone you don't know contact you out of the blue and say something. A person who contacts you never met in person, ask for something, money, maybe asking you to pay something or to give some money through unusual payment methods, maybe gift cards, maybe different money transferring option, maybe cryptocurrency, or else ask you to pay something in advance, especially through different unusual payment method as well. Asking your personal information is another sign that you need to make sure that they are trying to trick you as well. And and also they would pressure you to make your decision quickly as well. So those are those signs that you can identify a scammer. Yeah, that's it.
Right. Thank you so much. Shanuki, do you have any thoughts to add on?
Well, I'm just gonna put it in one sentence, simply based on my experience and my learnings. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. So it's as simple as that. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Devaka?
Well, I think both Shanuki and Mr. Ginige covered about everything. So you just, I always tell people just follow about 3 simple rules. As Shanuki said, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And if you look through, if they send you some material, or if you listen to what they're telling you, even even if they call you, watch out for and I don't mean to sound elitist, but look for bad grammar, listen for bad grammar, because a legit company won't put somebody who can't speak fluent Sinhalese or fluent English to market their products mostly. And also, as Mr. Ginige said, on websites, look for the HTTPS, because transferring money, payment gateways don't allow you to transfer money without a SSL certificate. But that is easily bought these days. When you buy a domain and a hosting account, you can buy the SSL as well. No questions asked. So if at all you're about to spend on something online, like for example, since the pandemic hit, something very popular right now is online courses by fake gurus. So most of them have a very, very, very basic formula that always works. Thankfully, it doesn't work very well in Sri Lanka and places like India, I think, because we are very computer savvy. We're very computer savvy, I have to say. But they'll target the middle-aged and the working class and maybe even the elderly. In places like America and England, they get a lot of money out of those countries merely by offering them a very well presented free video and then offering them something like a free book. Get all my tips and an extended description of everything I said in this video for the easy price of XXX dollars. But like Mr. Ginige said, they create a sense of urgency. We are only having this offer for the next 24 hours. So if you buy the book now, you'll also get a free mug. So sometimes it's just free stuff and some people just can't resist, so they jump at it. And sometimes the fake guru is just a person who speaks absolute nonsense with authority. They're good presenters. So if you can speak with absolute self-confidence, and scammers do have a lot of confidence, sometimes I just listen to them. I will admit, sometimes I just listen to them so that I can annoy them and they give up on me. But they have an amazing amount of self-confidence. Sometimes I wish I was born with that kind of self-confidence. So like, for example, I was approached by this fake insurance company. And so they asked me, how healthy are you? So a proper insurance company will usually ask you for a health certificate, or they'll send you for a checkup and then they'll check. They won't take your word for it. So I was like, everything that can go wrong has gone wrong. I'm trying to die. I'm trying to die young. So they hung up on me. And then there was this, sometimes it's not even a very confident adult. Sometimes it's a person who is very young. So as an example, Instagram is a prime playground for a lot of young people who are looking to make easy money. The elderly, not so much. The middle aged, not so much, because it takes a little bit of tech savviness to operate the ins and outs of Instagram. But I get messages saying, hey, I noticed you've done a bit of modeling and you work for a few fashion designers. So I want to be a model. How I just need some help. So, I mean, it could be somebody who's genuinely trying to create a career for themselves. So I said, okay, fine, call this agent, call this agency, call this photographer, get yourself some nice photographs taken. And I usually check with the people first, may I give your number out? But, most of the numbers I give out are available on their websites anyway. So at some point, the conversation gets a bit dodgy. They're like, will I have to do anything extra to get this job? And when they ask dodgy questions like that, somebody like me usually knows, okay, this is going in a very, very creepy direction. So I'm like, look, all you have to do is call those numbers. If you're serious, they'll take you on board. And if you're good enough. And I leave it at that. So yeah, you have to follow up strongly on things that you even suspect is a scam. And if it's actually a legit company, you don't need to feel bad about it, because, if a legit company has everything in place, they have nothing to hide. So you just have to see, do they sound overly confident? Is it too good to be true? Are there hidden costs? And actually, this was something another event that I actually faced, I got a call from this girl claiming she was from Dialogue, and she said, I've won the new iPhone. So I definitely won the new iPhone. So I was like, okay, what do I have to give you? So she asked me for my passport number. And I was like, okay, right. I said, I had to charge my phone because I have the old iPhone. Let me get back to you. So I gave a quick call to Dialogue and I was like, are y'all having this kind of competition? They were like, no, we weren't. Give them the number and you have to follow up on these things. So I just waited a couple of hours and I thought, okay, maybe I'll give this call and play along to see what she'll say. But by that time, she's knocked her phone off. So
Right.
you have to really dig in deep and yeah, just watch your back. I mean, it's not exactly hard to spot a scam. You just have to be a little vigilant and maybe not get too thrilled with what's being offered. And you have to understand that scammers are like masters of psychology. They know exactly how to whet your appetite for free stuff. Even for learning, you can be the most educated person on earth, but then they'll do a little bit of checking up on you and ask you, hey, there's a free course offered by this famous university. All you have to do is, send $5-10. It might be not much for us because at the end of the day, even if you're scammed, we're like, oh, it's $600, it's $1,000, we can live without it, let it go. But what if they've done this to a couple of million people? $5 into that is a lot, and we don't even know it. So yeah, just check out what you're being offered. Just go deep into it. If it's a Dialogue representative, call Dialogue. If it's an insurance scam, and if you think it's a scam, call the insurance company. Ask, is this kind of promotion going on? So yeah, just be vigilant. It's not too hard. But of course, as we get smarter, scammers get smarter, and their methods get more and more innovative. So we have to keep that in mind. There is no 100% future-proof solution for this.
Right. Harithriya?
I think the panelists have spoken everything there is to be told on this topic, but I'll just add something onto the whole, the non-monetized part of scamming here. Something that everybody has to be aware of is that, like Devaka said, that the scammers are masters of psychology. So the way that they build a rapport with you will be how they will find things, especially when they're speaking to young people, they will find things to relate to you. They will find things to show you that they have the similar interests, they have the similar social backgrounds, they have the same problems, and they will always be flattering and understanding of your problems and your situations and things like that. And that is how they build rapport with you. So therein, you will sort of let down your guard. You will give a part with sensitive information and sensitive details about yourself, which can turn against you. So I think that is what I need to add into what the rest of the panelists have said. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much. So moving on from the general questions, I would like to ask all of you some specific questions. So I'll start with Shanuki. So Shanuki, so like you said, scams aren't exactly new to many of us because we've all been at least attempted to be in scam at least once in our lives, right? So, but there is the thing that we are so used to scams that sometimes even in our culture, when someone might genuinely be needing help, for example, if a beggar comes up to you and says they really need money for dinner, you would get a lot of people around you saying, no, that's probably false. Like they probably want to go and drink, or they probably want the money for something else. Do you think that's do you think it has like a basis of truth, or is it just that as a culture we've grown so suspicious that we immediately treat anything related to information or money as a scam?
Yes, definitely. I mean, I think there's a huge abuse and misuse of the beggar identity by scammers, and I'm one of those people who doesn't easily actually give to a beggar on the street unless I can see for myself that this is a completely disempowered person. And I think over time you learn to trust your instinct, that okay, if it's somebody who has the ability to find work or seems sometimes they're very confident the way they ask and all that. They're not exactly begging, they're almost demanding, right? And this entitlement that they have around them, you can tell that they're not really in need, because somebody who is absolutely impoverished and disempowered has a certain amount. These are people whose spirits are broken. These are people who are desperate, and trying to survive. And you can tell the difference between somebody who is not desperate and who is. And I generally, I'm very wary of people with children who are fast asleep, carrying sleepy children all day long, which is not natural. So in my work with organizations that have researched into this, more often than not, these children are hired out by their neighbors or people that they know, and these children are drugged to look sleepy or to look ill or whatever, and all day long they rent out these children basically, and that is child abuse. So when you go to give money, you are also, that is you contributing to that cycle and endorsing that. So as much as it might break your heart to not be able to help, you need to be careful, because you might actually be fueling this industry. There is a beggars association, it's in Ratmalana, and they actually get commissions on the amount of money that they bring into the pot. They have like a treasury, and based on what your affliction is, if you don't have limbs, you get a higher commission, and so there's so many things like that. A lot of these begging scams using children and all that are driven by people who are trafficking these kids, or there are drug rings, there are human smuggling rings. So that it's natural for us to develop this trust issue. It's sad that we have to, but it is natural, because you don't want to be a part of that. You don't want to encourage that by giving. So you have to do your background checks. What I do now is, wherever possible, if they come up to me in the car, like the guys near the traffic lights and all that, I generally don't give, because that doesn't give me time to check on whether or not this person needs it, unless there is like, you can see, if they're if they're disabled, or you can tell. I just don't know. Instinctually, you can tell if they need it or not. Otherwise, what I try to do is, if it's on the street or whatever, I'll start up a conversation. And it's not the easiest thing to do also sometimes, but I'll start up a conversation asking where they're from, like, do they sleep here, or where is it that they come from? And when you start up a conversation, and if you try to give them something like food, or if you try to sort of give them something that like a book for the kids, or some sort of medication, and if they refuse it, chances are this is a scam, right? If they're desperate enough, and if you give them food, they will accept it. So that's the kind of thing I would do, and maybe have a chat. And if you have a chat, you see just how lost and helpless they are. Is there a way that you can connect them with an organization that could help them? Can you tell them of a soup kitchen that they can go to? Someone who is begging for real will appreciate that kind of information, will tell you their life story, will tell you what's going on. Someone who gets very defensive and very secretive and doesn't have the time of day to talk to you is someone who doesn't want you to find out who they are. So that's kind of my measuring stick. But yeah, I do think that we have developed some form of shell or some form of trust issue, and I think that's necessary, especially with the begging scams that happen in Sri Lanka. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much. I think we learned a lot from that. There's a beggars association.
There is a beggars association. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
It's in Ratmalana.
Right. Okay. You learn something new every day.
Yeah.
So moving on to the online aspect of things, my next question goes to Devaka. So with the evolution of the internet, online scamming has actually grown exponentially over the years. So I would just like to ask you, how easy is it to fool a person online nowadays as opposed to a few years ago? And in your experience, have you noticed if there is a particular age category or anything like that who are more vulnerable to scams than others?
Well, like I touched on before, the smarter we get, the smarter the scammers get. And when new technology is introduced into the market, they'll either find a way around it or they will find a way to use it. Now, Zoom, YouTube, those are prime playgrounds for the fake gurus. And as for your question about age, I've noticed it's either the young, the really young, the school leavers, either you've just left school and you're about to start on a university course, or you're in uni and you're working your way towards finishing your degree. So when you're young and you don't have that much money and you're kind of struggling, you're looking at the rich kids and wondering, how do I keep up? And say you see a video on YouTube saying, and these are very, very common these days, and they are mostly aimed at young men, because these days the pressure on young men, young people all over, all around, but young men in particular, there's massive pressure on them to perform and to outperform their peers. So how many of us have seen the Instagram account where you get the guy with the perfect hair, the muscles, and the Nike trainers leaning against his car, holding a wad of cash and leading a pit bull by a leash? And there's also some stupid motivational quote saying, rise and grind every day, be part of the 5 a.m. club.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So every time I've spoken to a lot of young men who, when they see this, it actually depresses them. They're like, why? I mean, if this guy can do it, why can't we? And I usually tell them, look, that's somebody else's pit bull, that's somebody else's car. The jewelry and the shirt and the Nike he's wearing is probably it's a sponsorship. He's wearing that so people see it and they want it. So I said, don't be fooled by all those things. But see, that's the thing. That age group, the scammers, they know how they think, so they target those people and they play to their insecurities. And just like that, now a very, very a massive amount of these scam officers, they are run from India, and they mainly target the US and the UK crowd, mostly the elder or the middle-aged who are not very tech savvy. So you can check it out on YouTube. It's a very, very common scam. They will call pretending to be tech support, and they will try to fix. They will say, okay, we'll fix your problem. Just give us access to your computer, and when the time comes for payment, they show you a fake payment gateway, and they say, okay, accidentally we've sent you money, so you need to return it to us. But they already have your payment details. You've given them access to your computer, so they've already checked everything out. So the money you're sending to them, you're not returning it. It's your money. And if you can't return it, they'll ask you to go to a Best Buy or a equally known, maybe Dick Smith's. They have those gift vouchers, which are as good as money. They ask you to buy those in their name. So you can check this out on YouTube. It's huge. And new scam officers are being busted every day in India. You can actually watch them on YouTube. Indian scamming officers busted, where you get these rows of people kneeling on the pavement because they've been caught doing this. Somebody's turned them in or reported them. And there's also these hilarious YouTubers who actually are very, very savvy tech people. They call pretending to be elders, and they speak in this elderly voice. And they take over the scammers' computer, and the scammers are like trying to pull out their modems and shift their cameras around. It's hilarious, but yeah, it's something to watch.
I wouldn't be surprised if Devaka did something like that, by the way.
I have.
Scam the scammers.
I have.
I see. I told you.
See, every window. I mean, if you're, of course, I think I'm speaking maybe 1.5 to 1 years ago. Some of the software wasn't as streamlined as it is now. So when you open a window, information flows both ways. So just as they can take over your computer, you can easily take over theirs. And all you have to do is right click on hard disk and press format, and yeah, watch the fun. Watch the fun and mute because they shout at you. But anyways, it's either young men or elderly people who are not tech savvy, or people who are desperate to get forward in life, because there's immense pressure, especially on the young crowd. So whether it's information, a free course, or a guru who's saying, look at what I have, look at my pit bull, look at my Lamborghini, all that, look at my new Ferrari and all that. they don't realize it's all fake. It's just a photo shoot. So they get excited and they sign up for the free course. But when they sign up, there are hidden costs. The manual costs something, the guidance book costs another thing, and going to a seminar costs something else. So YouTube is a very good resource to watch these scammers and people who have been scammed. So I always encourage young people to have a look at these videos so that they also get an idea of what's going on. In this day and age, being paranoid is not exactly bad. You have to be. And we also have to remember that because of the pandemic and the lockdown, Sri Lanka basically got a virtual kick in its pants. Nobody has an excuse to say they are not good with computers. If you're not good with computers at this point, you're either going to starve or you're going to be unemployed for a very long time. At least you have to know how to use Zoom, or you have to be able to work online, send files, receive files, work remotely, cloud computing. There's no excuse. So the more educated we are on what could happen, I think the safer we are. So age group, young people. The elderly, they usually have this habit of turning to their grandchildren, just do this for me. So if you do have grandparents who are about to send a couple of million to a Nigerian prince, it's best that you
advise them otherwise.
Advise them not to.
Pull the modem out as fast as possible, and you talk to the Nigerian prince. And yeah, like I said, I mean, paranoia is a good thing. It's not a bad thing. And there's no need to fear that somebody on the other end will get offended, because
Sorry guys, I can't stop there.
Fine.
They want to get a word in edgeways. So, it's always good to be paranoid, and a legit company will not get offended by your questions if they're legit. You have to understand that. And just like Shanuki said, I mean, if you actually have a proper conversation and ask for more details, if they're short and curt and want to quickly wrap things up and get you moving on making a fix, it's something to be wary of. So you can't exactly stay offline. It's time for everybody to move online, because it's a necessity right now. And being online and being paranoid, I think that's the best stance you can adopt.
Right. Thank you. That was very comprehensive. So, following up on what you said about the school leavers and the youth being more vulnerable, my next question goes to Mr. Ginige. So, this is actually a really big coincidence, but so my question for you is, many students are just beginning their online social lives when they start their A-levels or higher education. So why do you think they're more vulnerable to this scams and all of these little intricacies of the internet from a student's perspective?
Well, going along with Devaka, because especially with their age, they are vulnerable for these sort of issues as well. Now, there can be situations like they want to highlight themselves in social platforms, like Devaka said, even Instagram, Twitter. You have like phishing in Twitter. We have a term for that as we call it as phishing. That is combining the two words, Twitter and phishing, where you get a message to do something, you directly to a different website. So social platforms, they want to highlight themselves as an example. If you're on Facebook or some certain social platform, they might there can be certain instances saying who viewed your profile on your social page. So we tend to go into that and check as well. And if you're uploading a video, it might ask, is this your first video? Do you want to make it more reachable for others as well? So there are such things, like sometimes you get scam mails saying your account has been cancelled, or else to send some confirmation email. So they trick you into get these sort of things as well. And also they promote certain free product for you as well, free courses these days they are promoting, and even free trials for certain softwares, and tempt young students to earn a lot of money working at home as well, and tempting people to, okay, if you are in trouble, helping you. Especially for education, there are people who are willing to do our students' assignments. As there are certain scams happening. Okay, students tend to go to those places and get their assignments done. As and also, apart from those standard scams that college students involved, even this COVID situation, this coronavirus situation has created some new avenues for the scammers to come up with certain things as well, because most of these kids are struggling to make money to pay their course fee, rents, tuition fee. So these scammers, they advertise on fake money, making opportunities, and they want you to do some part-time job, maybe to work from home and get certain things from them, and especially they target international students as well, because they are not familiar with that particular environment, they are not familiar with that particular society, so they target international students as well. That can happen in Sri Lanka, that can happen in US, that can happen in UK as well. If you are an international student, you can become a victim as well. So yes, these students are vulnerable for certain scams, because they are not that aware about what is happening in social platforms, and they're not that much aware of what is happening in the community, and they don't spend that much of time looking into these sort of things. They just omit those things, they just want to enjoy their life, they don't want to check that much what is happening now. Maybe adults like us, we check all these things, we check continuously what is happening in the industry, what is happening around the world, but they're not that. They are always enjoying themselves. In such cases, they are very vulnerable for scammers. So that's would be one main reason.
Right. Thank you so much. So going into a different aspect of things. So I think we can all agree that scams are now, while not welcome, considered almost normal within not just our culture but also global context. But Harithriya, my next question is to you. There are surprisingly few instances where we're told about legal action being sought for scams, particularly the small ones, because people tend to just think, oh, okay, it's just a small scam, I shouldn't be making a legal fuss about it. So I would just like to ask you, what is the legal assistance that a victim of scamming can expect from our justice system?
Yeah, so let me just talk about this in terms of, again, how I divided it as monetary and non-monetary scams. So let's say, for an example, that you purchase something online, right? So say there's a website called quickies.com and you want to go looking for a laptop. So you will go onto this website and you will select the kind of laptop you want. You will state the specifications and see if the price fits your budget. And then you will most probably do an online transaction here and you will pay online and then they will accept it. Once you do this, this is essentially a contract here. Yeah. So a contract will essentially have an offer, acceptance, the capacity of the parties who are entering into the contract, and the consideration, that will be the amount that you pay for this, and the fact that this contract is legally enforceable. Yeah. So at a point where you make the payment and they either refuse to send in the product, that is the laptop, or there is something where they scam you out of it. So essentially what happens here is a breach of contract. Yeah. So then here you have the recourse, you have the law to go in for litigation and to recover damages for your loss. You also have the option of repudiating the contract. That is where you say you don't want this, you don't want the laptop anymore. I just want damages for the loss that I've incurred. So that is one recourse that is available for you. In terms of the non-monetary aspect of it, I think a lot of young people who are vulnerable and who face this kind of exploitive occurrences are more concerned with damage control. Say, for an example, there is a picture of you online that somebody has taken and they're extorting money from you, or something along the line. So you are more concerned of getting that photograph down than in bringing the accused to justice. Yeah, so therefore we see very little, we see a lot of people opting to go on an avenue where they will have options where to safeguard their image as opposed to bringing a person through litigation. Either way, if it is a case where in of that context, a couple of places where you can actually go to. One is, I believe, SL Cert. They help you out with situations like that. And I believe the State Institute related to this, especially for underage kids, is the National Child Protection Authority. So these kind of scams, these different type of scams have a very different underlining objective. See, if you have a monetary scam where they scam money out of you, the process is very retributive. I think, for the lack of a better term, you take them through litigation and you try to recover your damages. But in terms of a non-monetary scam, people are less willing to go through that litigation process, probably because of the publicity that is given, and also because we still have this social image to maintain, and what people are going to say to you, and how the media is going to podcast it out, and things like that. But a victim who has gone through this should realize and should know that there are laws in place to protect you. Especially, out of the top of my head, you have the Penal Code section 286A, that is obscene publication. Yeah, and then we have legislature out, that is the Computer Crimes Act of 2007, that is specially catering to offenses that are computer related. So there are laws in place, and we don't need to be afraid of thinking that you might not get the proper recourse through litigation, but because it is available to you, and there is nothing stopping you in getting justice for yourself. And I think we need to make people more aware of it, especially young children, because they opt to having discussions and getting advice from their peers when situations go wrong for them. And if anybody is listening out there, guys, the friend who's sitting next to you, who comes every day and whines about her boyfriend, or the guy with spikes in your physics class, is probably not the best source of advice. We do tend to gravitate to our peers to discuss our issues and discuss our problems, and that is perfectly all right. We've all done it. We still do it. But if your gut instinct tells you that something is wrong, or if you are actually in trouble, going to an adult or going to a matured person who is able and capable of advising you on the right recourse in the face of issues like this will not do any harm to you. And if you don't have the necessary family background, sometimes some kids don't have the ability to approach a family member, you can always speak to a teacher or somebody who is trustworthy. Just don't resort to going to your peers and getting advice from them, because that might lead you down a far, it can just lead you into far more bigger trouble than you are already in. So it is always better to get advice from somebody who's much older and much mature, and remember that whatever it is, there is always legal recourse available for you.
May I just butt in there? I'm sorry,
Yeah,
but if I
go
could
ahead.
just add in there, simply because, again, I have the experience of trying to follow litigation to seek justice, is that whilst there are laws from the perspective of the victim, there are laws in place that are there to help you, but the implementation of the laws and the process is quite slow. So victims also need to know that it is a hassle, and sometimes I also can understand why people choose not to push for justice, is because it's a bigger hassle to go through that process than it is the hassle of having been scammed. So it's much easier to let go of rather than follow the process. And this is because in terms of law enforcement, for instance, similar to CERT, you can also take it to the CID, Cybercrimes Unit. Police stations also have a cybercrimes department where you can go and complain about scam. But just that thing of being heard, of getting that statement done, and then going through that process, whilst the law is definitely there and will help you, you have to also practice a fair amount of patience to stick with it and go through the process. And that can be a little difficult for a lot of people. So I just want
especially when it's related to small children, because they're re-traumatized when it comes to a case. And I think that this is a place where we actually need more law reform, where we can quickly expedite cases, especially when there are little children involved. Because I think
and women also,
women, because it's quite traumatizing to go up in court and you need to explain what happened to you, and that whole process can of course be traumatizing. That is very true. I totally agree with you on that. But we need to know that there are laws, and you don't always need to resort to damage control, but always, because I think if we, of course we do need reform, but if we do actually try to have opt for litigation in this, I think in terms of awareness, and it could also act as a deterrent, in my opinion.
Right. Thank you so much. I think we all learned a lot. So my next question is for Devaka once again. So Devaka, how do you see and avoid an online scam? And can avoiding a scam lead to a new fear of being hacked? Because as you said earlier, the window opens both ways. And I know quite a few people are reluctant to avoid a scam once they actually see the red flags, because they fear that the window has already been opened and they might be hacked if they don't go along with it.
Well, the thing is, like we touched on before, a legit company or a legit service or a legit individual will not have a problem with a person drilling them with questions, because they have nothing to hide. So sometimes if you're too paranoid and you keep on avoiding situations, even if you have the slightest bit of suspicion, sometimes you can miss out, because during the pandemic, a lot of famous universities, and these are legit universities like Harvard, they offered a lot of free courses. There was one in social media that I was interested in following. There was one in marketing. There was one in business management. So these are certificates, and they make sure that you know the costs. So the course is totally free. But if you want a printed certificate shipped to you, you have to pay for that. Now that's fair, because there is a cost from the university side to print the certificate, to get it across to you, and shipping and handling.
Right.
But a fake guru would probably not want to be questioned so thoroughly, and they'll probably get offended or something, and they'll insist that you buy their book. They will try to rush you towards a sale, whereas universities like Harvard, they have it. You just Google free courses, free online courses. These come up. It's on their page. It's legit. And they give you the duration of the course. So there's no urgency. You can see whether it's already ongoing or whether it's over and when it's going to be available next. So I don't recommend people be paranoid to the point where they guard themselves so much that they actually miss out. Because like I said, now this current global situation, the whole world has moved online. People who always use the excuse, I don't know how to use a computer and I find the internet confusing, they don't have an excuse anymore. Everybody has learned now to use the internet and to go online and work online. So being too paranoid, you might actually miss a few good, offers, chances, because at the end of the day, there are a lot of people among us who can't afford to go to, shall we say, American College or ACBT. Those are good qualifications, but they're expensive. So there is nothing wrong with signing up for an online course and then getting that certificate shipped down to you. It's cheaper and it's from a legit university. So I don't want people to be so paranoid that they miss out on those offers. But I do insist on them having enough information, having enough knowledge to question, to properly question, to go in depth, ask questions. If you have to email, you will get an answer from legit universities or even a legit service provider. Like, for example, another example, Book Depository. I order a lot of books. So when the pandemic hit, they made sure they listed out the countries that they're not shipping to. And if you already made your order, this is the delay you can expect. And right now they're blacklisted Sri Lanka. So yeah, I'm terribly disappointed. But that's the thing. You can't be paranoid to a point where you miss out, because everything is online now. You can expect everything to go online. But you have to make sure you have the knowledge. And if you have kids, if you're in touch with young people, it's best that we teach them to question until your suspicions have been laid to rest, and you know exactly how whatever it is you're ordering or whatever it is you're getting involved in works the way that you want it to. And if there is money involved, what you're getting is what you're getting for the amount you're paying, and there are no hidden costs or anything. So yeah, being paranoid to a point where you actually miss the chance or miss an offer or a legit product or service, no, we don't need to be that paranoid. We just need to be careful. We need to have the proper knowledge in hand. We have to question. We have to we have to dig deep. We have to check standard things like, is this website secure? Is my money secure? Is it going through a legit payment gateway? Is there a refund policy if something goes wrong? All that is important. Once you have the knowledge in hand, you don't have to be that paranoid.
Right. So actually following up on what you said about having the proper knowledge, Mr. Ginige, this next question is for you. So what do you think we can do as a nation to ensure that proper awareness about scamming and the consequences is given to the population at large, particularly from the student level?
Well, to answer that question, as a nation, first we need to understand the threats that we have, the risks that we have, and the potential ways to overcome them. And there should be a series of different awareness programs that we need to conduct as well, and we need to build awareness. That is the most important thing. People should be capable of identifying the scam as well. I'll give you some examples that is happening around the world, which we can adapt to our country as well. I think this is July, so next month in Australia, there's this National Scam Awareness Week. I think from 17th August to 21st August, they are having kind of a national campaign to create awareness of scams as well. And if you take Scotland, the Scottish Youth Parliament, they have given provisions for the parliamentary members, youth parliament members, to discuss about these sort of things as well. And even social media itself can be used to create awareness as well. We have to start from schools. We have to create the awareness from the school level as well. And also we need to always contact the correct authorities in order to get the correct information as well. Local media can be used. That includes radio, TV, even the printed media as well. We can focus on youth groups. We can come up with certain campaigns as well. When it comes to creating awareness for students, at UCL, we create awareness for our students with the curriculum and of the curriculum as well. Especially when it comes to field like internet security, cyber security, network security, these are highly demand. There are highly demand information as well. Yeah, highly demand job areas. So it's high demand is there around the world, in Sri Lanka as well, and highly paid areas as well. So the degree programs that we offer at UCL, the diploma programs that we offer at UCL, a collaboration with Monash College Australia, University of Central Lancashire, and NCC Education from UK, we focus more on creating this particular awareness as well. with theoretical knowledge and practical knowledge as well for the student to meet the industry need and to create the awareness as well. For their exams, their assignments, they have so many activities as well to create this particular awareness as well. They do poster presentation, they even build software tools to fight for this as well. And on the other hand, we do off-campus, off-curriculum awareness programs as well. Various group of students. They are not students of UCL. They are from different schools as well. One good example would be recently we conducted a summer camp for school students, people after their O levels. And both myself and our dean, Dr. Dhananjay, we were part of that particular program as well. We were handling the IT related part as well. And I'll give a small example. I took few sessions with the students as well, and I had a session with them on certain things related to internet security, password, safety password, and being safe on internet. So we had a timetable session. My session was until like 1 hour, 1.5 hours, but I couldn't finish. Even after 1 hour, even after 1.5 hours, students keep asking questions as well. So that give us a kind of indication like they are greedy for knowledge as well. On the other hand, the awareness is not there as well. So we have to be aware of that particular thing, and we, as a nation, we need to come up with certain steps to build that particular awareness as well. And also we conducted some quizzes programs among school students. So in those quizzes also we include questions related to this particular area as well, simply to build the awareness as well. On the other hand, government as well as those legitimate organizations that are there to take control of these sort of things, they have to come up with certain plan in order to educate people. Because what I say is, you can prevent yourself from scam. So the most important thing, the correct awareness should be there. You should be capable of identifying if there's a fishy thing happening, if there's a kind of a thing that is going. You should be capable of detecting it. You should be capable of tracking it. If you can do it, of course, that is the most important thing. So what as a nation that we need to do would be to make sure that that correct awareness is being given to the students and for the general public as well, and it has to be the up-to-date information. So that awareness has to be created among the students.
Right, thank you so much. So before we move on to the next question, I would just like to give a shout out once again to our partner UCL. And for those of you who are tuning in to our Facebook live stream just now, UCL has a globally recognized cybersecurity program, the details of which are actually commented on the chat. So moving on to the next question, I would actually like to ask Shanuki this question. So Shanuki, scams can happen on a very small scale or a very large and corporate scale. So from the very small to very large, what are the more common characteristics you can see in these scams?
Dishonesty. Whether it's small or large, I think the common thing is somebody is not being real. Of course, it's much more difficult for a victim when it's a large scale, because the larger the scam or the more professional the scammer is, the more legit everything seems. And a lot of corporates also, lots of well-known names you might realize are actually imposters who have made such a brilliant trade of their scam that nobody really realizes what they're up to. So really, whereas when it's a small timer, a small scammer, they make a lot more mistakes. You know, they don't have all their grounds covered. So it's much more difficult to discern a scam from like the corporate or that large scale scam. And then as a victim, it can be very overwhelming. Like, how do you take on such a big large operation versus a small time guy where you can easily get him or her nabbed. But yeah, the underlining thing is dishonesty. So like it was mentioned, doing your background is the only way that you can protect yourself against it. So if it's an individual that you're dealing with, don't take anything for granted, no matter how trustworthy they seem. If they're not family, and if they haven't been your friend for over 10 years, then there is good enough reason for you. Because don't forget, like, scammers are also groomers. Sometimes when it comes to things with the, children with women, or these are people who can befriend you and get into your trust circle, lull you into a false sense of security, and until they scam you, they build up a relationship with you. So don't take anything for granted. Do your background. I would say, if it's an individual, if it's on a professional level, whatever this, if there's money involved, if you have to invest on something with this person, or if they're asking you for your information, before you actually give it to them, find out who they are. Your LinkedIn is a great way to find out about their professional background, looking for references on their social media, check into their social media pages. Are there mutual people that you know that you can contact, and just do some, like, okay, do you know this person, can you recommend this person, kind of thing. So just those little things, even if it's online dating and things like that, because I know a lot of young people do that as well, where you'd very easily go and give your numbers or your social media profile details and all that to somebody you've just met online that you don't know in person. There go my dogs again. So just doing the background checking will help. And when it comes to a large scale scam, if there's like a corporate or an operation involved, I know, like Devaka said, that he talked about the SSL certification for payment gateways being so easy, but getting onto those websites, looking up their company histories, checking on news, like what have they, are there any articles out there on what have they achieved, what have they done, have they been in the news? Because a lot of companies that have been around for a long time do have certain credentials that you can find through other spaces. Again, looking for references from mutual, contacts who have dealt with that company before. Look into all of that and make sure that the references you get are also verified, so that then you can make your informed decision. But other than that, as you said, the common thread is, yeah, they are being dishonest. They're just being dishonest on a different scale.
Right. So following up what you said about being aware when dealing with this professionally, Harithriya, so just a question. So in order to make an agreement, any agreement scam proof, because you can never be too careful, or to basically have an understanding of how to seek legal assistance in these matters, are there any basics that anyone should be aware of?
But first of all, I think it's physically impossible to make an agreement scam proof, as you put it out. Yeah, but there are certain precautions that we can take. Say, for an example, if it's an agreement or a contract, you can always have a damages. You can have a damages clause involved in it. So, which would essentially talk about the loss that you can recover in a case where you breach the contract, where either party breaches the contract. So the quantum of damages and all of that can be involved. So that is a precautionary method that is taken in most agreements in terms of taking protective measures. There is also something that you can take in terms of employment contracts. Now, in law, there is a principle known as vicarious liability, where if you employ somebody under a contract of employment, and that employee does a certain fraudulent activity or a scam using maybe a computer that you provided the employee or something like that, the liability attributed to the employee can also be attributed to your employer. Yeah, so sometimes the employer might not have a hand in this, but he could also have a liability attributed to him. So from his perspective, it might be a little unfair. So this has actually happened. an employee had once logged into a computer that was given to him by his employer within the course of employment, and has managed to obtain 70% discounts on certain purchases that he has made from a seller. So in such a case, the employer also has a certain liability attributed here. So what in such a case, what you can do is, in a contract of employment, you can have a clause which will exonerate you of liability. Of course, this is not a blanket insurance for you. It will depend on the circumstances of the case. But that is something that you can take from an employer's perspective. But generally, what you do in an agreement is you have a damage clause involved in it. The rest of it, of course, is, I think, it's very common sense in terms of other scams that are present today, like in terms of having proper security measures on social media, and making sure that you are interacting with people who are actually who they are meant out to be. Because, for an example, I think, I'm sorry, most of my research is centered around children and young women, because that is where all my examples are coming out. There have been occasions, these are things that I've seen, where kids say, for an example, all of us, we go out for dinner and we take pictures and we put it on social media, on Instagram, for an example, and we have, your cliche hashtags, for an example, dinner out, having fun, hashtag having fun, hashtag hot friends, hashtag my friends are pretty, things like that you usually put. And if you don't have proper security measures in play in your social media, it is just a matter of the perpetrator going on Instagram and then searching hashtags, say, for an example, hot girls. If you search on something like that, you will see a lot of pictures that come up that are just, just pictures of little innocent girls and, people just having fun. But these pictures invariably find themselves in certain sites, and in most pornographic sites. These are things that I've come across in my research. For an example, moms, if there are moms out there listening to this, you all are also some of the prime candidates that are being preyed on. Because, for an example, if your kid does something nice or something funny, it is instinctual for you to take a picture and maybe post it on Instagram or social media. And there is nothing wrong with it. It's your kid. It's your kid. You're proud of her, and you want to show what your kid does to the whole world, and that is perfectly fine. But especially in child pornographic sites, in the dark web and things like that, there is a picture that I came across of two kids in their bath, and you see a little dinky boat in the corner and a little rubber duck in the other corner, and these two kids are having a bath. And this has been uploaded onto a child pornographic site, and I'm pretty sure that obviously the children are too small to have any sort of access to an internet, to the internet or any social media platform. So I'm guessing it has been the mom who has posted it on her social media. So a perpetrator was able to get on to the mother's social media and obtain these pictures. And there are countless pictures like this. So I think in terms of a corporate context, there are things that we can do to protect ourselves, have clauses in play and take security measures. But in the perspective of if you take a social context of it, it is very, we need to be very conscious and aware of how we do it, because things that we put on social media or the internet will always be there. And anybody can have access to it if you are not very careful. And there has been, I think there was a video circulating on Facebook, I think it was done by BBC, where they had followed certain kids of ages from 12 to 17, I believe. And they tracked all their motions, because when you go out to have coffee, you tend to tag yourself, where the coffee shop that you're at, the people you're with, and what you're having, whether it's dinner or lunch, or whether it's a cup of cappuccino. So they've tracked all of this, and they got these kids to come in, and they started sort of throwing questions at them. You love to play the violin. You love cappuccino. You were at this cafe on the 5th Avenue on this date. And the kids were just flabbergasted. They were like, how do you know all of this? And that just shows that that it's very easy for somebody to track you and identify your movements and things like that. And this is something that they will use to build that rapport that I was talking earlier, and to build a relationship and for you to open up. So I think in terms of a social context of things, we need to be very careful, because in terms of the corporate context, we do have things that we can take, we can do before a scam can actually happen, to have some sort of security. But when it's in our social lives, it is always our gut instinct and our awareness and our education on a matter that will actually help us here. Yeah.
Right. Thank you, Harithriya. So before we wrap up, I have one last question for all of you. So do you think scams will be an unsolved menace for years to come? What does the future look like in terms of scams and where we can go with it? So would anyone like to start?
I'll start.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think Devaka already said it, that the more sophisticated things become and the more sophisticated we become in our thinking, the more sophisticated scammers also become. So there will always be one form of scam or the other around. As long as there's politics, there will be scamming. And as long as there is money, there will be scamming, because that is the prime objective is greed, right? Greed for power, greed for wealth is what fuels scams. So yes, scams will always be there, I think, in one form or the other. And the more desperate we get as humans, the more we will resort to it. We might become scammers ourselves, even, who knows? Yeah.
Right. Mr. Ginige?
Yeah, same as Shanuki. Yeah, there will be new scams coming as well. Since there are a lot of new technological things as well. However, what I would say, if there's a problem, there should be a solution as well. So we can think of coming up a kind of a way to protect ourselves. Even though you have sophisticated technologies or even sophisticated scammers, still, if you follow the basic, then you should be capable of protecting yourself as well. So the main advice that I can give would be, the awareness. You should be capable of, first of all, stop these scammers, spot them on time, like to make sure that you are aware what is happening. So if you can get a kind of idea if something unethical, illegal, or fishy thing is happening, it's you don't need to interact with it, especially can be a scam as well. So even in future, scams will be there, and we have to be smart in order to avoid them as well. As we discuss throughout our session, we have to be very open. We have to come up with certain ways to make sure that what we are dealing is a kind of a legitimate organization. We can ask more questions from those companies, and also we need to know the tricks that they are using, and we need to be smart enough to identify them. And also we need to initiate contact with them as well. As he mentioned, like we need to contact the original company, original authority, as Devaka said, call dialogue and see whether such promotion is going on as well. And also we need to make sure that we keep our information secret as well, not to share those information with them as well. And if you follow safe surfing practices, of course you are always somewhat protective from others as well. And also we have to pay attention to what is happening around the world as well. You have to educate yourself as well. In Sri Lanka, you have relevant authorities as well. And one thing, now in Sri Lanka, we don't do this much. Like we need to check our credit reports. If you are doing online transaction, better to check your credit report maybe annually. we don't do it often unless a bank force you to to get a credit report. But you can go to the Credit Information Bureau of Sri Lanka, the CRIB, and you can get your credit information as well. So you're not 100% sure that all these credit information are aligning with what you have done. Even through a bank, you can get it as well. And also, you have to stay informed as well. That is, you need to educate yourself as well. There are certain local international organization as well. In Sri Lanka, we have SART, the Computer Emergency Readiness Team, and also around the world there are different organizations as well. We have to make sure that we are linked with them and we are updating ourselves with them as well. And also we need to help others. Most important things, scammers love to target certain segment of the population that they think that they are more vulnerable and less knowledge, like children or even school students, old adults. So even tech-savvy teenagers may have not the right knowledge about protecting themselves from these target scam as well. So we have to be very open and we have to help others as well. So the best advice that I could give would be talk to your loved ones about the ways that you can avoid frauds, what scams to watch, what are the scams that you need to watch for, and how to react if they are approached by a potential scammer. And normally experts says that if you stay involved in the lives of your friends, parents, children, and you help to combat this isolation and lack of knowledge, then you are making a kind of a safe world as well. So most important thing, if you can educate everyone and create the right awareness with the correct set of tools and knowledge, you should be capable of overcoming all these problems.
Right. Thank you so much. Harithriya?
I think the short answer to your question would be that it will always be an unsolved menace, to be honest, because with the development of technology, we are being more entangled and embedded and entwined with it, and now life is actually impossible to do anything without technology. So I think with the developments of technology, there will always be new vulnerabilities that we are open to. And we obviously don't live in a utopian society where everybody has a virus card, where everybody's passwords and logins are secure, and where everybody's bank statements and everything is in order and safe. So I think we are always open to vulnerabilities, and the way to combat it is through awareness and education. Because at the end of the day, I mean, the COVID pandemic is a good example. I think Devaka touched up on this, where it was physically impossible to do anything without a simple computer and an internet connection and knowing how to use it, right? So I think it is the basic principle of a kitchen knife, to be honest. I mean, you can use a kitchen knife to make a healthy meal, but you can also use it to sort of stab somebody and kill somebody. Don't do that. That is illegal. You will go to jail. Do not kill anybody, but I'm saying it is the same parallels. So it is how you harness the technology for your benefit. And while it can also be used as a tool to scam you and to put you into trouble, it can also be used as a tool to educate yourself. And I think it is actually the best tool to educate yourself, especially on things like scamming and being frauded online. Yeah.
Right. And Devaka?
Well, yeah, this is never going to go away. It's just going to adapt and evolve as the internet is. It's not even a big part of our lives. It is a huge part of our lives. And we spend a lot of time on it. And people also need to realize that a scammer or a scam can run on several platforms, like the flow of information and the strategy of of the scammer can move from tool to tool. Like just as an example, it could start on your computer, it could start with online form, it could move to your mobile phone, and then it could end with a physical meeting. That could be the end game. So as an example, let me demonstrate. Shanuki, will you help me out? Yeah?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm like afraid now, but yes, okay.
We should be good.
Yes,
Yeah.
he might be hacking into my computer as we speak. I never know.
I hate your wallpaper. I'm kidding.
Thank you.
Okay. So picture this scenario. I'm a scammer, and it doesn't take me long to get into Shanuki's social media, not access it through the username and password, but I just look at it. And it's easy to find out from what people post, what they like. So let's just assume Shanuki loves her hair and she takes very good care of it. So me being a scammer, I take a good long look at her social media. I figure out she likes her hair. So I find common ground. I find something to talk to her about. So I make friends with her, or I get somebody to introduce her to me, or I meet on a platform, a common platform that everybody has access to. And I'm like, hey, Shanuki, I like your hair. Do you mind leading to your right so I can see it better? Like that? To your right. Yeah, just bend your neck that way. Yeah. So bend your head that way. Right. So yeah, move a bit this way so I can see your hair better. Okay.
Okay.
Right. Okay. I just took a picture.
Yeah.
And several things can happen. I can post this up on some group and say, hey, look, our heads are touching and we're showing affection online. I know her very well. So don't be afraid to give your money to me for a service that I'm providing because I'm endorsed by Shanuki. Or Shanuki, you're a girl with very strict parents. I send this picture to you and I'm like, hey, just send me your next paycheck or this picture goes to your parents. And now I have your photograph on my phone. And once this Zoom meeting ends, the record of me taking pictures is gone too. Unless, of course, Chokolaate has recorded it, but you know.
Chokolaate is recorded.
The hardest thing would be for me to Photoshop you, but I have your head leaning against mine. I can easily tell your parents we're being affectionate. And I could ask you, it'll start with a few thousands, it'll move on to several thousands and maybe your next paycheck. So,
and sometimes it's not just a paycheck. Actually, this is a very real, even though Devaka used this as a demonstration, this is something that is very real, that I've spoken to so many girls who have got caught to this kind of thing. It's sometimes soliciting sex and exploiting them for sexual favors.
It has happened, but if you note, I moved from platform to platform. It moved from Zoom onto a picture on my mobile, and it will take a physical meeting with me for me to give you the picture and get the money from you. And meeting a scammer who might be a potentially dangerous person is definitely not good. So yeah, it'll adapt, it'll move forward, it'll move from platform to platform, software will evolve, hardware will evolve. Already WhatsApp has the option to delete all records of a conversation you had with somebody. It can work for you, it can work against you, but a scammer will always find a way. So we just need to evolve and adapt and overcome those things.
Right. Thank you, Devaka. And I have to say that demonstration was really jarring. I think a lot of people, well, at least got the message now. So thank you so much once again, all of you, for dedicating your Saturday evening to talk about this topic. I think everyone who tuned in learned a lot. And if the comments on our Facebook Live is any indication, I think they did. So before we conclude, once again, I just want to mention our partner, UCL. So just to update you, there are several programs that they have. And with that being said, I think we can conclude today's proceedings. So thank you once again, and good evening to all of you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.